right, you should be good to go.
Cool. All right, all right. Hey, everybody. I think I know most of you guys here, but in case you don't, my name's Matthew Merrill. I'm a senior developer over at Elevate Software. We are basically fully devoted in the crypto space and Web3. So we make software for automated trading bots on the exchange. We make cryptocurrencies, NFT collections. We're starting to learn arbitrage and how to do that on like a massive scale. And today, I've been invited by Nightbane Matt to give you guys a talk about smart contracts and shitcoins. So, as you can tell, only the clearest and cleanest topic, truly the coolest thing in the world. Definitely not shady. Uh, yes, Pathfinder says NFTs are gross. They are, but not the cool ones. For the most part, the Bored Apes ones, stuff like that, fucking stupid. But that's only scratching the topic. So, without further ado, let's talk about what you can expect to learn today. I'm going to give you like a super high level explanation of the blockchain. I don't really want to focus on that, and I don't think you guys really want to either. That's a little out of our scope. What an EVM compatible network is, what are smart contracts, how do they work, how do we make them? Again, super high level. We can focus back in later during the AMA if we really want to go into it. What is Solidity? How does shitcoins work? And the current state of blockchain development. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So starting off, what is blockchain? Well, shocker, it's a chain of blocks. Basically, what a blockchain is a digital ledger of transactions that are duplicated and distributed between millions of different users. So block one contains a hash of the previous hash, or sorry, of the previous block, which then points to the next, and so on and so forth. Basically, the easiest way to think of this is like a rolling database almost, containing all the different transactions in a block. So, for instance, say I trade money to Nightbane, that block is now stored, that transaction is stored on block one, which can be pointed to from block two and vice versa. Now, the real question is, how do we develop on this chain? On a high level, it kind of makes sense, but how do you actually make transactions and how do you really develop? So you mainly want to use Solidity. That is by far the most popular programming language in Web3 at all. This is primarily used on EVM compatible change, which we'll get into specifically in a couple seconds. You'll use Remix. If you go to any, like, how do I learn like Solidity and how do I get into it? They're going to show you Remix. It's the most popular piece of shit IDE you've ever seen in the world. Uh, it will crash. It will delete your smart contracts. It will refuse to load for no good fucking reason. And it's absolutely a mess. However, it is by far the easiest way to get into crypto development because you can basically deploy your contracts with a nice handy GUI. So if you're just trying to get some surface level stuff, Remix is the way to go. Ganache and Hardhat are testing tools. Obviously, smart contracts are basically just dealing with money. All you're really doing in a smart contract is transacting data, which is typically money. So you better be testing your shit, even though pretty much no one in the crypto community does that as it stands. You're going to use test nets such as Kovan, BSC, Rinkeby, pretty much any test net that you would actually access. You can basically simulate trading on the main net like Ethereum. Let's see. Yeah, Pearson web search destroys their smart contracts, refuses to elaborate. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Pretty much nothing actually is fixed. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But the current state of crypto development is just script kiddies and scammers. And then lastly, HEVM. It is by far the best testing tool that you will ever have never heard about. Nobody ever uses it. I only know one person who's used it before me, and that's the guy who taught me. And he's been in the crypto space for like 4 or 5 years, so he's an OG, and he only knows two people who have touched it. So let's hop in to the Ethereum virtual machine. So some EVM compatible networks are obviously Ethereum, Binance, Polygon, Celo, and Avalanche. Basically, what the EVM is the instructions on how to generate a next block. So when you have a smart contract, you are creating transactions, and that's built upon the EVM machine. Because think of it as a like a road or like the construction site in a house. In order to actually build upon and build a house, you need to have a blueprint. The EVM is that blueprint for crypto. It basically shows them, yeah, I can build 2 or 3 rooms on top of this foundation, but I need to make sure that they're in this sort of category. They can't be made of sticks or wood. They have to be made out of concrete and rebar. So Basically, EVM compatible networks, in my opinion, are some of the best. Now, the downsides with that is Ethereum, you have high gas fees, very low throughput, which basically means you have a low amount of transactions per block. So some chains basically try to remedy this, such as Binance or Polygon or CeeLo, where you have a much lower gas fee and much higher transaction rates. Smart contracts are the main way that we interact with these chains, and that's really the difference between like an EVM versus a shit, I don't know, like a oh goodness, if I could remember the name of it. There's a couple other popular chains that don't use Solidity, but for the most part, EVM is what we're going to be talking about today. So some of you might be questioning what exactly are smart contracts. Smart contracts are the programs that actually are stored on chain and run when queried. So take a basic shitcoin contract. All that is a transactional contract. It's you agreeing to interact with this contract, this program, to do a specific thing, which is transfer money from wallet A to wallet B. Um, like I said, you're most likely to encounter these in tokens, NFTs, or DAOs. They're extremely powerful, but they're very limited to the same degree. Like you can't just have a scanner. You know how like in Python you can say like on event A, you can basically like search for an event coming in. You can't do that with smart contracts. You have to query the smart contract in order for it to do something or activate it by some sort of trigger. Um, excuse me. So they're compatible with front end and back end functionality, so that makes it very powerful. So if you're going to try to have arbitrage opportunities, you use C++ for the mathematical calculations and then execute it on chain with Solidity. Or if you're trying to show a really pretty GUI like Coinbase or CoinGecko or stuff like that, you can connect your MetaMask wallet using a smart contract in JavaScript and basically display the information in that wallet. So there's limitless possibilities. So let's talk about making a smart contract. Where exactly do you start? And as we touched on before, Solidity. It's a object-oriented language. It's basically a mix of C++, Python, and JavaScript. It is designed specifically and only for the EVM. So as we talk about the ethereal, oh my goodness, the Ethereum virtual machine, it's important to note that there are other blockchains. Take like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a completely different chain with completely different rules. So if you make a smart contract for Ethereum, it's just not going to work on there. Now, granted, Bitcoin is trying to create their own smart contract compatibility, but honestly, I think that's still a couple years out. I haven't seen any real proof of that getting dropped anytime soon. So realistically, Solidity is your best bet. Next up, it's basically impossible to avoid in running into any tutorials when you get into the space where it isn't Solidity mixed with Remix. This is basically going to be your playground for most people to show you as an intro, like, oh, I'm a really cool blockchain dev. Copy and paste your code in here. The only problem is, if you look in the dictionary, the third synonym for dog shit is Remix IDE. It's absolutely horrible. Just stick with Visual Studio. You can basically import a library like you would for Python or anything else, and then run Solidity through there. The only negative is you may still use Remix to publish it, but you can use command line arguments to do that instead. So again, we're going high level. We're using Solidity. I'm not going to teach you guys how to program. Just know Solidity is the language of choice with Remix as your IDE or Visual Studio. Next up, you need to test your code. Ganache and Hardhat are the most popular by far. They have the best documentation. They're pretty robust. You can do a lot of testing on it. And it's considerably easier than setting up than some of the alternatives. The only downside is it's really hard. Like it doesn't really go into super low level testing. Like HEVM basically will go in so low of a level that you can see like the individual transactions between different Uniswap routers, and when you're transferring between like internal fucking wallets and stuff, it's great. So personally, I prefer the new challenger, DApp Tools. And DApp Tools, or more specifically DApp Tools HEVM, is by far the most powerful underused testing out there. You can do super low level. So think of it like the difference between assembly and machine code and like Python. Ganache and Hardhat do some really cool stuff, and it's super easy to use and understand. But HEVM is much better for getting down to your 0 days. Like if I were to exploit something and really try to see what's going on, like specifically in the function, I would use HEVM all day long. So the pen testers in here, you want to learn how to use HEVM, and that's going to be your favorite friend in testing and seeing what a code actually does. HEVM also pulls down a portion of the chain. So instead of using it testnet, it actually pulls down a block of real Ethereum code that's basically running on chain to be completely accurate. So if you're using like arbitrage opportunities, you could use a testnet. However, just due to some factors, that testnet is not going to be the exact same as the actual EVM. So if you're pulling down actual EVM, you can get more reliable results. The only downside is there's almost zero easy to read documentation. So it's definitely not for beginners. It is a pain in the ass. Like I said, I only know one guy who's ever used it other than us, and there's good reason. It's a pain in the ass. But if you do get it all set up, it's a one-stop shop for testing, and it can pretty much simulate everything Hard Hat and Ganache could ever dream of. So let's see. Sounds like someone has a lot of code at one point. yeah, I have lost a shitload of code with Remix. It's deleted like 3 of my contracts before, and I basically saved everything in notepads. Pain in my fucking ass. Um, will that cause problems with security testing? Is that with regards to which? I think that was from a minute ago, Matt.
Pulling directly from the production blockchain instead of using a
Um,
test unit.
No, because although you're pulling it from the production level, you're not actually interacting with it. So basically, what you can do is, and this is also how you interact with chain using like C or Python, you can pull down a node or set up a node locally on like an SSD that's fast enough to process it. And it basically just pulls it down and simulates as if this transactions did occur. So if you're familiar with Ethereum Classic versus Ethereum. Ethereum Classic is actually the original Ethereum. So what happened was a couple years back, Ethereum had a huge hack. They lost millions and millions of dollars, and the whole community decided to fork Ethereum and basically revert that hack. But Ethereum Classic decided to continue doing it, and they said, hey, hack or not, we're going to just keep doing it. So what you're basically doing is pulling down a miniature fork for just a very split second, running your transactions on it, and then removing it from your hardware.
Okay.
So technically you're still simulating it, but it's simulating it on production without being in real environment.
Yeah, it's almost like having a separate branch for it.
Exactly.
Branch.
Yeah, and then it just immediately nukes it.
Okay. Sweet. Thanks.
Yeah. So you've done your testing. You've got your code deleted 6,000 times from Remix and punched a hole in your monitor. Now time to launch your first shitcoin. Well, what exactly is it? Shitcoins, from Doge to SafeMoon to Nobility to any of the projects that we work on at Elevate, is just a simple Solidity smart contract. You can make them certain functions complex, but at the end of the day, all it is an agreement between two entities. You have the users and you have the smart contracts. The users are people who have like Ethereum or Binance or some sort of native currency that want your smart contracts token. So basically, what a user will do is they will log into some sort of third party site like Uniswap. They will agree to the Uniswap's JavaScript to allow it to call functions in the wallet on its behalf, and it will then interact with your contract. And all your contract is doing is sending money from wallet A to wallet B. And sometimes it takes a tax out of it. Companies on like Coinbase that are regulated on Coinbase so you can trade do not have taxes. That's part of their terms of services. But tokens that we produce very often have a tax. So what you'll see is I want to buy Shitcoin 32. I want to buy $100 of it. I purchase it. However, I only have $90 because we just take a 10% tax. Some popular shitcoins that you've definitely heard of are Doge for sure. That's literally just up. There's no fucking utility. It's just a straight transaction. You just swap in between it. I don't even think there's a tax. SafeMoon, Rip Jake Paul. Those guys scammed the shit out of like millions and millions of dollars. And fun fact, we actually worked with some of the owners of SafeMoon behind Nobility. Unfortunately, we did not know they were scammers at the time, and I'm pretty sure they set our company up to be basically like scapegoats. Because again, allegedly, there's no proof of this. That project looked like it was a slow rug after it jumped about $20 million market cap in under 2 hours. And then slowly the project dwindled to about $1 million market cap and then relaunched and heroically made an $80 million market cap and is now back to a $7 million market cap. And then shocker, the guys who were actually behind it never actually revealed themselves and are now getting sued in the SafeMoon lawsuit. So that's very fun. The average tax rate for shitcoins, low end, you'll see like 7%, high end 15%. I would say middle ground, we do anywhere between 10 to 12 is a very common. And shit, dude, like you don't like 10% on the surface doesn't sound that insane, but like If you do $100 million in volume and you make 1%, then there you go, you get $1 million in your pocket. Yeah, Pathfinder's got SafeMoon right there. Yeah. Unfortunately, SafeMoon was not safe. Nobility, again, we worked on that project. We helped it launched. It was fucking crazy. However, I won't go too far into that. But anyway, moral of the story is make sure you know the developers of any given token and make sure you know who the marketing team is, because we've been experienced where we'll launch a token and the marketing team will just run off with like 5K and then just fuck off and completely remove all of their socials. So anytime you in air quotes invest in shitcoins, do not like make sure you know who everything is. Yeah. So anyway, off on the tangent, back to what your shitcoin is. It's just a transaction. Um, Now, a lot of people, again, take NFTs for instance. A lot of people, actually, we'll talk about this perfectly, Colt. A lot of people in the NFT community are shady as fuck. It's given a very bad rap on NFTs and tokens because all they do is make a shitty NFT project with like Riley Reid on it, and then they raise $3 million and then they just fucking walk away. There's no real utility in that. NFTs are much more than just an image. They're a on-chain database and exchange rate. So where take for instance our again, this is going to sound super scuffed. Our project that we're launching within the next couple months, not shilling, don't buy it. I don't need your money. Please don't buy this. It's called Prove Zero. We're launching a NFT marketplace for carbon emissions. I'm not going to go too far in depth because a lot of people heard this earlier, but basically what we're doing is we're NFTizing methane intensity that oil and natural gas companies emit when they're producing oil. So basically, the less methane intensity, the greener the energy, and the higher the worse. So basically, by 2030, these natural gas and oil companies must be carbon neutral. However, there's no existing way to prove that they are carbon neutral. So by NFTizing this and basically validating and putting something that's immutable on chain and we can't change it, they can then buy these NFTs and say, hey, look, I did purchase or I did produce responsibly sourced gas. I am carbon neutral. That's a real world example. Same thing like I hate the example because everyone thinks it's stupid, but the easiest thing is think of it like a deed to a car or a house. You could NFTize that and then you could basically sell it for crypto or something like that. Couldn't they just use a third party ledger? Correct, they do. And that's typically how carbon emissions are tracked right now. But the problem is there's no centralized authority. There's no centralized figure. As it stands right now, if a company A is a big polluter, they just pay some random dude in Africa to plant 50 million trees to offset their balance. However, there's no proof. What's the difference between a redwood tree and a eucalyptus tree? Does a eucalyptus tree clean the environment more than a redwood tree? Nobody knows. Hell, people don't even know if they're actually planting the trees. You have to send a human validator over there and count every single tree. So the current carbon credits environment is just horribly riddled. Like there's flaws everywhere. So by providing something that has a continuous monitoring service, which is a AI driven monitoring service with cameras, we're able to validate that data basically. And if you guys have questions about that, we can go more further into that. We're almost done with the talk here. But the moral of the story is, what else other than shitcoins can you make? You can make a lot of stuff. You can make tokens, NFTs, decentralized autonomous organizations. You can have arbitrage opportunities, which, if you don't know, on different exchanges, stocks and cryptos are listed at different rates sometimes. So, for instance, say on Coinbase, it's listed for $1. On Matthew's exchange, it could be listed for $1.01. So if I buy $1 million worth of a token for $1, I can then sell it for a penny profit on the other exchange and just do a flash loan. That's what arbitrage is. So you can make millions of dollars, well, thousands of dollars and compounding to millions of dollars by basically just loaning out and taking flash loans and having really quick transactions between the two exchanges. Sorry. You can make custom blockchains, custom protocols. For instance, one might say that our NFT and crypto space is a custom protocol because we're introducing a whole new functionality to the chain. You can also integrate Web 2 functionality. Basically, anything you can do on Web 2, you can put on Web 3. The only difference is that Web 3 has a wallet connected to it. And I wanted to put it in camel case because the metaverse, we can make that. It's going to be so cool, guys. Nobody knows what a metaverse is, but in theory, Ready Player One would be pretty dope if we could actually get a real one like that. But technically, Solidity is going to be the way we go for that. As we touched on a little bit before, the current state of blockchain development is a fucking joke. Everybody out here is claiming to be this awesome developer, and they're just script kiddies. Like it's even worse than the pen testing community, where you can go, "Oh, dude, I went on Hack the Box, dude. I looked up the tutorial, bro." This is even worse. They're just copying and pasting code and then charging $30,000 for it. It's horrible. Just last week, we found out about an exploit that almost all smart contracts have, where if they're put on different exchanges, they don't get taxes. Metaverse is the main 2022 push, so it should be interesting. Yeah, I would be very interested to see what Metaverse's take on the Metaverse would be, I guess. However, I think there's a big pushback from like existing communities where they want more of a decentralized metaverse. So I'd be curious if like Centraland and Decentraland compete for who has users, but as it stands right now, until more people start adopting NFTs, like I don't know about you, a bunch of you guys play Dota or my god, Dota, CS:GO, like Team Fortress. We've technically been using NFTs and cryptocurrencies for years now. I'm totally used to it. I just never realized it. So once the average consumer actually uses this, like for instance, you can buy food with NFTs. You can buy a brand new watch. Like instead of using StockX to buy your sneakers, go onto OpenSeas, buy a sneaker like NFT, burn that, and they'll ship it out to you. Like it's very interesting, but I just don't think enough people see that use case because of how tainted the NFT space has been by these people just trying to make millions off of horrible things. Yeah, there's too many scams right now. And at the same time, at the beginning age of the internet, we didn't have horrible like quite as many, but we did have a bunch of fake tech companies. So I'm hoping that within, I'm a very unregulated guy. I don't like regulation, but SEC needs to walk in here. We need to stop having these $3 or $5 million scams. And then once we start getting some regulation, I think that's where a metaverse and a mass adoption of Web3 will be accepted. But yeah, so that's one. Scams everywhere. There's vulnerabilities literally in every fucking contract. I'm sure there's some in mine, because you can never be too safe, and there's just not enough experience in the space yet to really, like we've got Burp Suite, we've got Wireshark, we've got all this stuff for network security and for web app and all this other stuff, but we have almost nothing for smart contracts and Solidity. It's just, do you know of this random exploit? Hope you do, otherwise you're fucked. You go to lose all your tokens. And there's poor resources, and everyone honestly competes over collaborates. People only find the one big project, they steal from them, and then they just lie and cheat and try to make the quickest buck because you can charge stupid amounts of money for pretty much doing nothing. Um, Too much control from one source, Counter-Strike can just give everyone knives. Correct. And that's where the DAOs and decentralized exchanges do come into play. That's why the metaverse from Meta may not be as appealing, because it's one centralized exchange. Imagine if Facebook had the ability to basically print money like the US government does. Then we'd be in the same issue. Like for instance, these tokens that we launch, launch with a set supply. That's to create a deflationary ecosystem, because when we're buying back or trying to get rid of tokens out of circulation, we push the price up more. But if like Facebook controls all the fucking NFTs, you're screwed. One centralized authority is going to have too much control. So that pretty much rounds up the talk on a very positive note. But in an actual positive note, where do you learn Solidity / pen testing? I linked a couple of videos inside here, like Solidity in 2 hours, your first smart contract. I also linked a Web3 career board where you can see some stupid wages being asked. I actually found one last week for a senior Solidity developer. You would get, as long as you had like 2 years of experience, they would pay you $350,000 a year with $400,000 in stock options. So the money is a great incentive. Please, I encourage people to look into this. Be the force of change. I'm trying to help people by doing talks like this. Even though I'm by no means the most experienced, I want to have more people in the space that actually give back to the community and are able to do positive. And for the pen testers in here who do not give a shit about development, I have a bonus treat for you guys. Smart contract pen testing. So Ethernaut is a Web3 Solidity based war game inspired by Over the Wire. It's super dope. Basically, you log in with a MetaMask account. I can help you guys set that up if you need. And you can basically start smart contract pen testing. And it's the Wild West, dude. Like audits, like Certic audits cost like $50,000. So if you get good at this and you start bug bounting, like, dude, if I had a guy come up to me and goes, "Hey, Matt, there's an exploit in your contract that's trading $3 million a day. There's a super big vulnerability. This is what it is. This is how to fix it." Dude, I'd give you so much money for finding that, especially if you can get partnered with some of these bigger companies before they launch, do audits for them. The money is just everywhere. Oh yeah, dude, Pathfinder, I agree. I do not like that at all. A couple new chains are actually trying to make it to where it's permission based. Because again, any smart contract can just be airdropped into your wallet, which means if you interact with that contract, you have no clue what it actually could do. It could completely nuke your wallet. Can you add to the supply? Yes. Yes and no. Inside your smart contracts, you can have minting functions that basically add to the total supply. But if you never have a minting function, you're just left with whatever you minted at the launch. So like for instance, if you want to open a new liquidity pool on like Coinbase or CoinGecko or something like that, you need tokens to do that. So what we do is we launch our smart contracts with like a set supply of, let's just say, 1 million tokens. We lock 800,000 of those into a third-party site that locks those tokens. 200,000 are then put in for a liquidity pool. Then every 3 to 6 months we get a unlock of a certain amount of those tokens where we can then use them for other exchanges, because we don't want to mint new ones, but at the same time we need certain amount of tokens to put into exchanges or other use. Do you have to buy those out of Park, or are they just they're given? So when it comes to tokens minting, the only cost that it comes with when you mint a token at the very beginning of a smart contract deployment is the gas fee to launch that. In Ethereum, it can cost you anywhere between $400 to $3,000 to make a new contract. We got fucked one time when we launched Boost 2. I think we paid like close to $10,000 to $15,000 on function calls for the first like 3 days. It was insane. Yeah. Now, however, that was also the same day, and we tried to change the launch, but the owner would not change it. It's based off demand. There was a company called Gas War something. It was basically an entire crypto thing to increase gas and make money off of gas. So these fucks launched and they just raped us in gas. And I mean, the guys we launched it with had a big pocket, so they didn't give a shit. They just wanted us to push it. But dude, making a function call for $500 just to like whitelist an account. Oh, dude, just changing a boolean from true to false, $500. Oh, it's horrible. So that's why Ethereum's great because it's massively adopted. But using EVM compatible chains that have the power of Ethereum and then some with zero the gas, much better. But for the most part, that's it. It seems like there's a healthy amount of questions, and I went on tangent specifically for the fact that I was short.